Oakland Raiders again. The Raiders, I think they were idle last week. They obviously lost Ruggs, and then they cut other players on their day offs too. So Friday, all over there. AKA, if you haven't seen the movie, you should. I'll link it in the description below. But Raiders at number 10. Tell me why.
Yeah, I think that's definitely questionable. I kind of have them lumped in with a couple other 5-3 teams, simply because I just like what I know they're coming off a really bad loss against the New York Giants at the Meadowlands. Carr didn't play well at all, but I have a bit more confidence in him right now, believe it or not, than Ben Roethlisberger or Trevor Siemian, which are the two quarterbacks of the teams just ahead of the Raiders, and they have the same record as that team. Obviously, the situation with Ruggs is almost yesterday's news, because now Damon Arnett came in with the guns and the threats and all this. Just an idiotic move. Obviously, he was cut. The decision-making of Mike Mayock, the general manager, really has to be questioned. This guy was a draft guru, expert. You saw him on NFL Network, all these different things. And he would always be the number one draft expert. And if you think about some of the moves he's made since being in charge of the Silver and Black, some of them are very questionable, especially with the character concerns, right?
Right. And I believe I read something that all the players from the 2020 draft all have been cut or are not starting on the Las Vegas Raiders this season. So take that as you will. But coming in at number 9, fresh off a fantastic loss, 9-6 barn burner there, are your Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, Sunday was just a weird day. We already talked about the Raiders losing to the Giants. Probably the most shocking game of all was the Bills not only losing to the Jaguars, but not even putting up a touchdown. Their line was just thoroughly dominated throughout. Josh Allen, obviously this was a overdone storyline, but Josh Allen got the better of the more famous Josh Allen, if you will, with the interception, fumble recovery, sack as well. So great game by him. I think it was just one of those stinker games for the Bills, but even if you go back to a couple weeks ago against the Dolphins, it took them really into that third quarter before they figured things out on offense. And they've got to look at themselves in the mirror. They've got the New England Patriots in their rearview mirror, just a half game behind. So they've really got to start playing better football. They've got the Jets coming up on Sunday. That should be a good get right game, but who knows? This Mike White guy's looked pretty good in limited action. So they're going to have to play well.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, I'm actually intrigued to watch this game to see if the Buffalo Bills are a team that consistently play down to their competition, or if they're actually going to rise and flex on teams that they should flex on. I think this is a big momentum game for the Bills moving forward. So at number 9, I'm still happy with that there, but what I'm even more happy about, honestly, is the LA Chargers coming in at number 8. They were my favorites to win the AFC West this season, even though I am a Kansas City Chiefs fan and wearing a Cowboys hat, which is weird, right? But but I am a KC guy in the end, and I did have the Chargers winning the West, and them at 8, I think that's spot on.
Yeah, it was another good kind of bounce back game. I think Philadelphia Eagles showed some good fight in this matchup, but Chargers were able to make enough plays. I really like the moxie of this kid, Herbert. I also like the running back, Eckler. They have some pretty good receivers as well. And I like the defense. They've made some plays. I know they've given up. They've had a couple games when they gave up a lot of points, but I think they play with the same personality as their head coach, Brandon Staley. He likes to go for it on fourth down. He has a lot of confidence in his team, and I think that's really inspiring them to play some really good football for the most part this season. 5-3, pretty good first half ish. I know it's a 17-game season. It's hard to split that up, but I definitely think the AFC West crown is there for them. They just got to keep it up.
Yeah, it's funny that you brought up their coach, because there are 3 coaches that I would love to play for in the NFL. 1 being Mike Tomlin, 2 being Dan Campbell, even though he is still like a rookie head coach, doesn't quite know what he's doing like over there yet, but his passion fires me up. And Staley over there in LA Charger land. He wants me to run through the wall for him, and I would do it in a heartbeat. Then my Super Bowl favorites here this season and all year, I'm still picking them to go to the Super Bowl, are the Dallas Cowboys. They suffered a huge loss versus the Broncos, a 30-0 shellacking. Let's not even add those 16 points on it, because that's all mop-up duty in the end. 30-0, they got their ass kicked. Let's just play it honest, but they're still in the top 10. Why?
Yep. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna this was a brutal performance. I mean, along with the Jacksonville loss for Buffalo, probably one of the more shocking games of the weekend. However, we gotta remember Dak Prescott was coming off an injury. He had no practice time at all. He's gonna be shaky. I don't care who you are. If you don't practice all week with your boys, you're not gonna be sharp, and he definitely wasn't sharp. The defense wasn't as good as we've seen it in several weeks. I mean, they got carved up by Teddy Bridgewater, who has had some decent performances, but he's hardly a guy who really puts up big numbers, but that's exactly what he did in the first half. So I think this was a blip on the radar rather than a real troubling sign for Cowboys fans. I still think they're one of the top teams in the AFC. It should be a shoe-in for them to win this division and host a playoff game, and maybe more as far as playoff wins are concerned. But I'm not too worried. I think 7 is pretty much right around where they belong.
Yeah, and just in hindsight here, so I did some external research here from Pro Football Reference. If you take the Dallas Cowboys defense performance from the 20 to 20, so take out the red zone plays, they are 25th ranked defense in the league. So their defense definitely has some holes to fill. They are playing a very bend, don't break type of style. And it was succeeding, but it has not succeeded last week, obviously, versus the Broncos. Also, in hindsight, you do have the Broncos at number 15, so it wasn't like they lost to a bottom-tier team either. The Broncos are okay-ish, right?
They're decent, yeah.
And then coming in at number 6, you do have the L.A. Rams. They offer fresh loss, too.
Yeah, they are. The hijinks of Sunday afternoon carried into the evening, and they just got their butts whipped against the Tennessee Titans. Stafford didn't look good. He threw that weird interception when he was getting kind of pirouetted, spinning into the end zone. He just kind of threw it without looking right into the arms of the linebacker. And then he threw one about 24 seconds later. Byard picked it off and waltzed in the end zone for a touchdown. That was kind of the ball game at that point.
Yeah.
Titans really tightened up the screws, no pun intended there, on defense, and Rams couldn't really do anything. Very similar to the Cowboys game, though. I'm not overly concerned by this one performance. I still think they've got a lot of things ahead of them. Obviously, they're a game behind the Cardinals with a loss to them head to head as well. They may have to settle for a wild card as far as the playoffs are concerned, but I still like the defense. I still mostly like the decision making of Matthew Stafford. Obviously, he had a couple of real bad throws on Sunday night, but I think it was a bit of a blip on the radar and not an indication of what this team is really going to play like for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, and just to add some food to thought for that interception, the Titans had back-to-back interceptions on the 2-yard line for pick sixes back-to-back weeks. One versus the Colts and Wentz, and then Stafford and the Rams the following week. So crazy turn of events there. But just to review the top 10 here, at number 10, we do have the L.A. Raiders still. We'll see if they fall off in the second half of the season like they normally do. Number 9, we had the Buffalo Bills. Number 8, you had the L.A. Chargers. 7, you had the Dallas Cowboys. Number 6, you do have the L.A. Rams. And then breaking into the top 5 again, jumping up from 7 to 5 this week, you do have the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I think there's something about this team. I think the narrative coming into the season, well, Lamar Jackson, once he gets down, he can't get back up. He can't lead a team back once he's down in a game. Once they're down 10, he had an 0-6 record going into the season. If you think about some of the games they've come back from this season, week 2, Monday Night Football against Kansas City, they were down 35-24 in the second half of that game. They found a way to come back. Obviously, the defense played a role in that, forcing a couple of fumbles from Patrick Mahomes, but Lamar Jackson certainly did his job. And then again, I think that was Sunday night. And then the Monday night game against Indianapolis, they were down, I think it was 25-9 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Somehow found a way to win that game. Wentz had a couple of bad throws in that one as well. And then again, this Sunday, they're down 14 on a couple of different occasions to the Minnesota Vikings, who have looked decent at times this season. They fight back into this game, and I think Lamar Jackson's really changing the narrative. He's throwing the ball down the field. Obviously, he's handing it off and keeping it himself for a lot of rush yards as well, but he's proving that he can be a captain comeback, if you will. He could lead his team back when they're down. He could throw the ball down the field. He could pretty much do it all. I know you're not a big fan of this guy, but he's been in the MVP of the league. For me, the only question he really needs to answer is the playoff victories. He's 1-3 in the playoffs. If he could improve that, he's really got nothing else to answer for.
Yeah, really, the only thing he is lacking this season so far is putting a complete game together. Just because if
Yes.
you look at those comeback wins, the first half he is completely dog shit, and then the second half he is the best of the best. So if he can bring one down and one up and make it, like a eye for eye type of thing, he is probably a runaway MVP again this season, even though Tom Brady and the Bucks, they're looking pretty good. Tom Brady is 25-5 on the season. The MVP odds to win, or the odds to win the MVP, and that is exactly who you have coming in at number 4 are the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah, they were idle this week. Kind of nice for them to have their bye after 8 games, kind of square in the middle of their season. They've been rock solid all year. I think there's not a lot not to like about this team. A lot of, people might say, well, why don't you have them number 1? I think they're good where they are at number 4. It's tough to talk about a team when they didn't play the week before, but I mean, sometimes the run game isn't as good as it could be. But I really like them bringing in Giovanni Bernard. They've got a hard hitting defense. I like Bruce Arians as a coach. Byron Leftwich is really kind of developing as an offensive play caller as well. The diversity of the offense, Brady really spreads it around. So I expect this team to be playing deep into January and possibly get back to the Super Bowl again.
Yeah, and the one thing positive about the Bucks is when they're on top, they seem to not perform as well as they're chasing the top spot. So if you are a Bucks fan, you should be ecstatic that he has him at number 4, so they have something to reach for and to strive for right in the end. But something to strive for is getting Aaron Rodgers back on the field after the whole COVID crap happening, right? And that's who you have coming in at number 3, fresh off a loss versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, their reign at the top of my power rankings was short-lived, Buck. They're only up there for 1 week. Some people might say you should have dropped them a little bit lower. They only fell a couple of spots. I didn't want to overreact to this. Is Jordan Love the next great quarterback in the NFL? No. Is he even a backup in the NFL? I don't know. He didn't look good at all. He threw less than half of his targets to Davante Adams actually were completed. Right. And Aaron Rodgers, you have to go back several years to find a game when he less than half of his targets to Davante Adams, his main man, weren't complete. So that wasn't great to see. The defense kept them in the ball game, but Love just didn't make enough plays. I don't want to put it all on him. On the other sideline, obviously Mahomes didn't play very well either. Obviously, they're hoping they can get Rodgers back for the showdown against the Seahawks. He's going to need another positive COVID test on Saturday. He was fined peanuts for an NFL player for all those shenanigans and the ambiguity of whether or not he had a test. He said, yeah, I was immunized. I don't necessarily want to go too much into that, but I thought that was a very laughable fine by the NFL for a star player. But they're going to protect their stars. That's the way it is. But I think it was really ridiculous.
Yeah, we have definitely beat that dead horse here the last few nights on the Man Hour, and I'm going to beat it some more here in hour number 2. But dropping them two spots, I agree with that because they did lose, so you had to drop them some, right? But they were also out their star quarterback, the arguably the best quarterback in the league. On the flip side, Jordan Love did outperform Patrick Mahomes as well. So take it as you will as far as stat-wise goes. Eye test, no. And his mom probably couldn't see half of the game live.
Oh, my gosh. They had him in the nosebleeds. That was ridiculous.
So speaking of the nosebleeds, the Tennessee Titans, they're starting to get the nosebleed because they have climbed way up in your power rankings to number 2. Even without King Henry, they did sign AP. Maybe he can take some of that load. Number 2, though, man, come on.
Yeah, I think some people might say, you have them too high, but to me, this looks like the best team in the AFC. If you think about what they've done over the last 4 weeks, they beat the Buffalo Bills in that showdown with the 4th down gamble. They shut down the Kansas City Chiefs, kind of drawing a bit of a blank, but they definitely roughed up the Rams on Sunday night. Yeah. I think Jeffrey Simmons looks like a star on the defensive line.
Yeah, he does.
And you know, they're not getting the same amount of rush yards or even attempts possibly without King Henry, but they are mixing it up. You're seeing Adrian Peterson getting some carries, but they're also using McNichols and some other guys as well. They're going to need Ryan Tannehill to play like an MVP type of candidate. His quarterback rating is a little below average right now. It's right around 90. But he's just got to make smart decisions with the balls, try to spread it around, and remember that he's got a really strong defense on the other side, and possibly the best punter in the NFL. I know you're are we really going to talk about a punter, but Brett Kern could be a real weapon
Yeah,
back
yeah.
there when they need him. And I just think again, Mike Vrabel has really taken this team and really they got him to play. He got them to play kind of like the player he was when he was with New England, punching out footballs for fumbles and
Right.
catching touchdowns in the end zone. They're just a tough team, and I really like what I've seen out of them over the last month or so.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I had them on a 5-game skid 2 weeks ago, but obviously that didn't happen. You know, they beat the Chiefs, they beat the Rams, and then now I think this week they play like some podunk team like the Houston Texans or something ridiculous, right? So,
Yeah,
so like obviously, you know, they're trending up very, very high, and back at the number 1 spot as a team that should always be there are the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm totally kidding. It's the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals are back at number 1.
Yeah.
You had them up there week 7, and they lost, or week 8. I think it was. And they lost to the Packers. They dropped to number 2, and now you have them back up there. Like again, why do you have them at number 1 and not the Titans?
Oh, that's a good question. I was just really impressed by this victory, Buck, over the San Francisco 49ers. They're without Kyler Murray, certainly an MVP candidate in his own right. Colt McCoy hadn't started a game in at least a couple of years, I believe. He looked really sharp. I really like what I saw to him. James Conner lost his mind. I think he scored 3 touchdowns in this game, a nice 45-yard receiving touchdown over
Career
the
high.
middle as well. Yeah, he looked great, the Terminator as he is. And the defense looked really good as well, frustrating Jimmy Garoppolo, forcing out a couple of early fumbles and really taking control of this game. 49ers were really never in it. They scored a late touchdown. I think it was Brandon Ayuk went up and got it. But I just think this team's really well-rounded. It's taken Cliff Kingsbury, this is into his 3rd year to really kind of build his program, but they're confident. Marcus Golden is an underrated guy on that defensive front. I know they were without JJ Watt, and they really didn't miss a beat. So I think it was one of the most impressive victories of the season, and they're the only team with just a single loss. So I had to put them back at the number 1 spot, and we'll see how they respond. They didn't respond in the best of lights last time I had them at
Right.
number 1, so we'll see.
Yeah, the old at Bus Wallace curse is live and well, because every time you put a team at number 1, they drop back down, right? So just
Yeah.
to recap here, the top 10, you do have the Las Vegas Raiders coming at number 10. Number 9, you do have the Buffalo Bills. Number 8, the LA Chargers. And then number 7, you have the Super Bowl winning Dallas Cowboys. Number 6, you have the LA Rams. 5, you have the Baltimore Ravens. 4, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 3, the Green Bay Packers. Number 2, the Tennessee Titans. And number 1, the Arizona Cardinals.